All right. So, welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast. This is Richard, your favorite Irish Mexican, and we're going to try video today. This should be one, the first video podcast, and two, it'll be my first interview and guest. So, right here, coming to the podcast, we have Lewis, and Lewis and I met on TikTok, and I'm going to let him give you his TikTok handle and all that. But um, we met on TikTok. I kind of came across your live at the beach and noticed it and kind of noticed your handle, which we'll get into. And, we started chatting and I kind of got to learn what you were about and how your TikTok handle relates to what you're doing and pretty much why we're here. So let's start off with just a little background, who you are, kind of what you do, and I definitely want to get into your collegiate background as it relates to, because that's going to lead the listeners into how you're here and how you're doing what you're doing. So go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little background.
Hey everyone, my name's Lewis. Altilano, pleasure to meet you all. Richard, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on here, man. It truly is an honor to be a part of your podcast and a part of your growth and this podcast, Chris. So thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
As Richard said, guys, we found each other through TikTok, Soulful Recovery Pin, and it was just one of those things that really started, I guess, that motivated me to start posting more on TikTok was because let's see.
Why did you join TikTok? Let's start there.
Okay, cool. First time I joined TikTok was January of last year, 2022.
Okay.
Last year, and it was going to be nothing more than just straight writing prompts. That's it. You're just going to see nothing but pictures of like nature, water, mountains, and that's what it was. If you scroll all the way back down, you can see some of that stuff was more of just nature, intuitive and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't until I wasn't really trying to grow on TikTok. I wasn't really trying to just you know meet people. I was just posting stuff. I knew nothing about it until me and my wife got more onto it and started discovering some of the features it had and whatnot. So um, after that, once I got on, I stopped posting, of course, in the very beginning. And during that time, I stopped posting. It just was. It took like what 8 months for me to get back on this
Mm-hmm.
profile TikTok. Once I got back on, I was more of the mindset of, you know, recovery, sober. I had a different outlook on it. And I said, okay, well, how can I use this platform to help others in the same stages that I'm going through? Well, one of the ways I can do that is by writing. Okay, well, what was I doing in the beginning? I was doing writing prompts. And so that's kind of what led me to get back onto it because I was more of like, okay, in sobriety, in AA, you'll hear that how can we be of service to others?
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of little motto and I ran with it on this page. And so that's kind of what got me back into it, got started, beginning to start posting again. And so that's how we're here today. So yeah, a little just
And where so you started with that, and then of course you had this little gap, which we're going to talk about how you ended up back to TikTok because I always say there's this why I joined TikTok, but then there's a why I stayed or continued to grow. But um, what the audience doesn't know is probably one of the things even before whatever happened is that you're actually you have a degree in creative writing.
right. Well, I'll be receiving my degree in May. I'm
Okay.
taking a senior class, which is a full semester long. So
Hmm.
it's pretty much in that capstone class, pretty much just focusing on one work. And
Right.
once you get pretty much guaranteed pass. So technically
Yeah.
no, but
But
yes.
your background is in creative writing, and this is
Absolutely.
kind of the inspiration for what you were doing with the prompts initially, um,
Absolutely.
as well as what you're currently doing.
Absolutely. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. That,
Okay.
well,
Oh,
I guess mention if you don't mind me. In AA, Well, so I guess you mind if I start from the very
Yeah,
beginning? Is that
yeah.
okay?
Start from the very beginning.
So, I didn't really knew or know that I had a problem with alcohol until about maybe 3 years ago, I would say, honestly. Before that time, I was what, 22, 23, right? In your young 20s, I mean, I guess me personally, I took it upon myself, okay, I want to be the man, right? I want to be the guy. I want to be successful. I'm driven. I want to do it all. I want the American dream, is what I really thought. Okay. And then I did that. Me and my wife, of course, we love each other, but we got a house, we got our dogs, and it was just picture perfect, picture perfect the way I wanted it to be, you know. And so with that, of course, family trauma came along the way, right? And that was just something I didn't see back then. You know what I mean? I want to kind of ignore those little things. I just wanted
Hmm.
to focus, you know. Um, and so, of course, alcohol slowly started seeping in. I started to gain more, I would say, of emotional development. I started to realize, okay, why does this make me so upset? I was getting a good understanding of that, but to me, me personally, I come from a very conservative family, and so when I started asking these different emotional questions to my parents, they quickly said, "Turn to God, give it to God," right? And so I kind of took that and said, "Okay, that's just what I'm going to do moving forward." That's what I thought, right? Um, Unfortunately, I went that route, and when I went that route, it just kept escalating, 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 and we've had this is I've had many instances of where alcohol almost ruined my entire life. I've ruined it. I mean, I it was just it's more of like a dance with the devil. You know what I mean? And it's not good. It's really not. I've ruined many relationships under the influence, of course. I've said things that I'm ashamed of saying, but it wasn't until I would say back in 2022, okay, um, I decided, okay, look, my wife at that time, she was saying, you really need to get yourself some help. And I was like, okay, cool, we'll get help. So I tried getting help, didn't work. And I went to three different rehab facilities in the year of 2022. And, I wasn't devoted my time to it. I wasn't dedicated to it. I didn't really think I had an issue, right? Well, one day, 2022, I came home from work and I'm like, okay, I want a few beers, right? I remember drinking those few beers and I remember still feeling like it was not enough, like I needed more. So I went to the gas station again, maybe got what, four more. Okay, this is still not enough. So I went to Walmart, got a full handle of sangria wine, drunk half of that, and I don't remember a thing, right? It wasn't until I woke up and my wife is standing over me, and I'm like, okay, what the hell did I do? Because I know it's not good. I'm on the couch, right? I'm on the couch, and she's like, your mom is on her way right now. And back then, me and my mother were still, she was there, but not in the sense of like really there, But your mother's on your way, my parents are on their way. I'm like, oh my God, like what did I do? Right? They all came to the house. They were really worried, and I. It turns out I've almost put my life and my wife's life in danger during my alcoholic episode and whatnot, right? And so that's when I knew. Okay, I don't remember doing any of this, and this has been going on for like it's like a snowball building up,
Hmm.
and I need to kind of just stop beating around the bushes and accept it as an adult that I have an issue. No matter how young I am, I have an issue. It's not good. It's not healthy. So I literally typed in recovery centers, and we were in Sugar Land, Texas during this time.
Hmm.
I typed in recovery centers, and the first thing that popped on my phone was positive recovery centers. And I believe they're based in of course, the Houston area, but as well with the Hillside Country area of
Hmm.
Texas, north in Dallas. And so I typed it in, I submitted my name, my last name, my phone number, all the good details and whatnot. And within 10 minutes, immediately, they called me back, right?
Oh, wow.
And cool. Well, this is obviously a sign, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I answered their phone call and they said, we can have someone meet you in today. I said, okay, well, yeah, the universe is telling me something. At the time, I really didn't believe in God, right? So I thought it was universe. I mean, I guess you could say everyone has a different perspective, but I thought it was just the universe or the world telling me something. And I was like, okay, I need to go, right? So I went, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. Me attending, going in that building, I met a guy named Kevin, and he was just like more of like he had this very calm presence about himself, a very calm aurora about himself,
Hmm.
and just he asked me this question, well, why are you here? And I looked and I said, well, I'm here because my wife and, my mom told me I need to come here. He's like, no, why are you here? And I was like, okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That struck a chord within me. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. I'm here because I want to get help and I'm scared. You know, he said, okay. He ran the diagnosis and everything. He said, well, we can have you go to a in rehab facility. Like, you typed up this assessment. It's like you qualify to be in like a facility of rehab, and we have that here. I was like, well, listen, Kevin, this is my first time ever attending any type of counseling session, right? Like first time ever getting help, honestly.
Right.
And I was like, I'm really nervous. I don't know what to expect. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? He says, okay, well, you know what? You can go ahead and we'll start you in person for now, outpatient program, and see how you develop from there. And so, you know, next Tuesday I was in rehab in outpatient Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, and I was attending AA meetings as well. Um, and I'll be honest with you, that me personally going to that center, it changed my life, man. Like I mean, I grew up in a home very conservative. My family doesn't believe in counseling. They
Now, did your
believe.
family drink? Did you have alcohol in the house growing up as
Yeah,
a child? Okay.
yeah, I did.
I was
Um,
kind of curious because, we're both Latino.
yeah,
We share that. And so we definitely, that generational mindset is way different. It's definitely geared towards Catholicism and the church. And yes, we still have alcohol and do all the things that Latino families do, whether it's barbecuing and this and that, the other. And so I guess I was kind of, I think one of the things, and you definitely see it in TV and ads now, especially if you're a sober person, that alcohol is just so normalized.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
And I think that that's kind of one of the things and kind of why I asked the question is, like you said, like, hey, I wanted the American dream. I wanted to, be the
right,
man. And you kind of start having that, but what kind of gets implanted in that is also that, when you were a kid, part of having that American dream was being the adult and being able to have a beer or whatever, cut loose, however you want to describe it or call it. But the fact that it's so normalized, we never, I don't think that those generations are equipped to deal with and understand um kind of the science, the why we drink, the chasing the dopamine hits and whatnot, and also to maybe how their behaviors, their normalization of an activity within the family impacts, you know, us, the
right.
kids, the next generation. And so I just find that very interesting, that it kind of can be a generational thing. And part of, I know with myself not drinking as well, it's really about trying to break that
Yeah,
generational curse of how we normalize it. Because, I've had both sides of my family, the mom and the dad, both sides, members on both sides have both had issues with drugs and or alcohol. And so, it's kind of one of those things that, at some point somebody has to take it upon themselves to say,
this shit isn't home.
yeah, and
Yeah,
this family can't do this anymore because it's impacted us in one way or another, be it whether it's something like your mom having to come over, um, and or do a rehab, or that it's caused a long-term problem that maybe eventually led to um, death. I did
right.
have an uncle pass away um, uh, in the 90s, and it wasn't talked about at that time, but it was from heroin use. And so, you know and this was the early 90s, and it was a very big thing in the Latino culture that we just didn't talk about. It was kind of like you see somebody go from who they are to a shell of themselves, and you kind of ask your family, because I was like 17 at the time, and um nobody would talk or be open about it. I had to ask, and then it was like, yeah, this is what it is. But yeah, it's definitely, part of our culture as Latinos, and part of the generational thing that I think, um, why we're here, why I'm doing what I do. But also, I'm going to let you continue, and it'll show why you do what you do, and kind of how both of us want to not have our family names, and the people that come after us be, chained to
Right.
this way of life, or the addiction, the genetics of it.
Absolutely.
But you were saying that it changed your life, and
Going to count.
where how did you have to take any medication? Did they put you on medication for withdrawals or anything to keep you from going, since you were just doing the outpatient?
The only thing when I went to rehab, the only thing they recommend was taking a lot of vitamin B,
Hmm.
which I stocked up on and started taking it, and it really helped out a lot. It really helped kind of curb those cravings and kind of just more focus on like in the moment, which is crazy. I didn't know vitamins would work like that in a way, but yeah, it was
So
pretty. Saw that.
what what was it about what was it about the rehab part that, you said it changed your life? What was it? Was it group meetings? Was it the AA part? Was it the sponsorship? What was it that kind of helped make it successful? Because I know there's a lot of people who go to rehabs, and either they don't like them, the programming's not well, or they're not successful. So I'm kind of curious, what was it about this particular place or program, or the small things you did on the daily that help make you successful, and or why you were attracted to this rehab?
Yeah, good question. I would say when I mean, I guess in the very beginning, one of the reasons why I was so um, against going to therapy in the beginning was my mom, and I'm being as open as being
Mhm.
vulnerable here. My mom at such a when I was what maybe 11, 10, I'd say. My mom would I don't know. I'm not gonna. She would that's kind of hard, but she would hit me in a way. And
Mhm.
one of the things and I, just shield off, kind of block off. As I was doing that, right, I guess I pushed her in a way. And because of that, she had thought I was mentally ill and crazy. And, I shouldn't use the term crazy. I don't want to offend anyone, but that's what her words were,
Right.
right? And, so instantly she took me to like this mental institution. And I mean, I was a kid, man. I was a kid. I remember one of the workers there telling me it's okay. We're going to take care of you. None of this is your fault, right? I remember that. And, at night, whenever I would go to sleep in these little rooms, I would just, hear people cry and just hitting themselves. You just hear it all. And that's what I
Mhm.
heard. Ever since then, I told myself, okay, the hell with this counseling stuff, right? I'm never doing that. That's not going to work again, right? And so I guess you would say one of the ways or one of the reasons why this worked out for me so well um, was just I would have to say the professionalism handled by Kevin, my group counselor.
Mhm.
Um, he was very, I guess you would say, very comforting, and it was one of those things where you literally take it one step at a time. If I have to miss a day of counseling, if it was all too much, it's okay. Come whenever you're ready. That's whenever we're here, right? It was just more of like it's not like a race, it's a marathon within recovery, you
Right.
know. So that's kind of how he broke it down to me. And once I started to see, okay, I can trust this guy. He's comfortable. Back then, I thought this way. This guy, comfortable around him. He's safe. My guard went down. And so I'm very thankful today to say that guard has been down since. And I see the world completely different. One of the things they taught us in that program was, take one day at a time. It's as simple as that. And when hearing those words, it like seized like all the thoughts in my head. It seized it completely, and I just hear in my head one day at a time. And so, as someone who is still an addict and as someone who is in recovery, that's like I don't know. To me, that's like the most comforting words that you can hear while enduring this journey. You know, um, and some of the things we would do, we'd start off small. We'd go around, "Hey, how was your day?" We would sit there and listen, actively listen to people, and it delved in real deep. I was never the one to ever open up and be vulnerable. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. But going to counseling, "Hey, Lewis, you ready to share today?" No, I'll pass. Okay, cool. Don't worry, no worries. Hope you're having a good day. And after about 2 or 3 times of that repetition of just passing, I finally said, okay, my day was good. I walked my dog. I was sober. Okay, hey, those little accomplishments, that's awesome. Once I started getting the praise from that, I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, well, this after all, these guys are just like me. These women are just like me. We're all battling the same battle. Why can't I be open with them like they are with me? And so once I started to see that, that's when the vulnerability started to open up, and me being open and honest to my feelings really opened up, and it just did wonders for me. It really did, especially in group talk. But not just that, but little things. Okay, get your little journal. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? And you don't have to share with the group, but just write it down, and this ownership, this responsibility of yourself. Write it down, and I would do that until I was comfortable with sharing. That's when I started to share more, and just little things like that. Not rushing the patient, but more of like, hey, just gearing in the patient whenever they're ready to take part. Because at the end of the day, it's their sobriety. And
Right.
they're here for ultimately they're ultimately that they're going to want to do better. And so that those are just the little key things that worked for me. You know, uh, but I will say once I started opening up more, the more support I had from people and others who were in sobriety and in recovery, and it just made it a lot easier. It made it a lot easier to talk to someone because it's like, hey, these guys, these people are going through the same thing I'm going through. We're all here for each other. It's a community, you know.
Right.
And so I met a few friends. I remember their name, Kathy. Uh, I think Kathy was the one that really, really helped me. She brought me to my first AA meeting, and that's where I met my sponsor, Joey. And just, it all just kind of, once I was started to take accountability, it bled into me being open and talkative to people. Once it started letting me be open and talk to people, it bled into other areas of my life where, I just changed as a person completely, and it's very beautiful if you look at it that way, at least to me. So
But it's still, like I think, what a lot of people, I mean, like with anything, there can always be those people to give that olive branch out. Um, but, it's not just about taking the olive branch, it's about doing the work. Like you said, the more you're sharing, the more, you're journaling, the more you're going to get out of it. A lot of people think it's, you know, whether if it's drinking or any kind of drug, it's like, just stop doing that. Well, that's not really the problem. The problem is, what are you using that to get away from?
mm-hmm.
And trying to, whether it's talk, journal your way through that, figuring out that root cause. And I think, I, for me at least, when I think about it, and you may be able to relate, is some people don't think of it as like a continuum, like long term. And I just talked about this on a podcast where, um, when something is long term, open ended, you can't see the finish line. It's
Right.
hard to imagine, I guess. It's kind of hard to comprehend, or because so many things, whether it's a work day has a start and end time, you know, um, so many things are start and finish. But, if you're trying to be sober and live a life in recovery or constantly improve yourself, as you should, it's a lifelong process. And I think that that can be overwhelming for people and maybe, prevent them or make them hesitant to even just take a step, because,
Right.
you know how do you, I don't know, how do you prepare for something that maybe you never see ends, but as is life, you don't know your day, you don't know your end date. So it's like you kind of have to live it on a continuum of, like you said in the beginning, it's a marathon,
Yeah, it
and
is.
nobody starts off at the starting line of a marathon and can see the finish line like 100-yard dash. So it's just, and I think it requires a different type of mentality, and a different mindset to be successful in that. But I think like what you said, in if you can just take it one day at a time, and I don't have to worry about tomorrow, I just have to not drink today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
That- yeah.
so you can, how long was this outpatient program?
This was a total of 3 months, so
Okay.
90 days.
And once you
Um,
completed that, how did things go? Did you continue to go to meetings, or where did your journey go from there?
yeah, no. So in the midst of those 3 months, like I said, I was learning just new things about myself, man. And then I was like, okay, I didn't know I thought that way, or I didn't know I could do this, or I didn't know I loved checkers. I didn't know I enjoyed making puzzles. I didn't know that stuff, and it's because of alcohol, right? And so anyway, I was like, okay, well, now that I'm starting to, learn new things about myself. I want to learn why I feel this way. How come I was so standoffish in the beginning, right? And so as I got more confident, like, you know what, counseling isn't so bad. I'm going to try, seeing a psychiatrist, right? And get real help and get more help, not real, but more help. And so when I did, um, man, it's insane. I was on I was in the appointment for about what, like 10 minutes. And he had asked me, okay, he was asking my feelings, how I felt throughout the day. And I told him, well, all this is pretty good, but it's just when I had this dream. He's okay, well, tell me about the dream, right? I told him about the dream, and he's like, okay, he's like, I'm gonna have to stop you right there, Mr. Arnold. I'm gonna go ahead and say, you have PTSD. I'm like, oh, I was like, really? And me personally, I thought I would get diagnosed with like depression, anxiety, but I think all that's within PTSD.
Right.
So he said, yeah, based off what you told me, and if that's what you're having, is like you have PTSD. And I go, okay, well, what can I do to help? How can what can I do on my end to help, I guess help with this, with this, diagnosis? And he said, okay, well, are you on any medication? I go, no, no, I'm just taking vitamin B. That's pretty much it. So they put me on, I want to say it's, the medication was Effexor. I want to
Hmm.
say, and it's kind of helps kind of destabilize some of the anxiety and I guess some of like the emotions you feel. Because I was telling, I feel very like spaced out sometimes and very just not there, like on autopilot.
Right.
So that did wonders for me, right? And so when I started taking that medication, like man, I got on that medication. I had a sponsor. I was on my like eighth step, going into like finishing my eight steps at 12th step. Um, I was on that pink cloud, man. Like I was in what almost pushing 90 days sober. I was so good, right? I graduated from the program. And I met lifelong friends and people who would be there for me. If I would just give them a call right now, they'd answer. We would just talk and chit chat, right? It was life was going amazing. Um, However, I will say when I started, taking the medication, I kind of it got out to my mom, or got out to my mom that I was on that stuff, and I don't say stuff in a bad way, but when she was found out that I was on medication, she was like, "Well, I'm so disappointed in you," very conservative
Hmm.
outlook on it. And I knew it was like, I was like, okay, well, I knew she was going to act this way. That's fine. And counseling taught me at the end of the day, you can't control other people, no matter what they say, what they call you. You can't control it. You can only control yourself and what you're doing. And so those words circled around in my brain when I heard about it. Like, you know what? Yeah, I can't control what she says. I'm going to do my part, right? Um, and along the way, of course, I set those boundaries of where I didn't really want to, if you weren't supporting my recovery, and if you weren't, giving me words of affirmation and words that I need to hear, then I have to kind of unfortunately love you from a distance type of love,
Right.
And so, that's kind of how it was throughout the course of, the program. Once I graduated, man, it was a really big deal. I felt so proud of myself. Like I finally did it. Like I finally, I completed something and I did it. I felt on top of the world. It was amazing. It was really, yeah, it was amazing. Unfortunately, as the course of the months went on, um, I felt, I talked to my sponsor about it. I said, hey, Father's Day is coming up. I really want to see my mom and my brother, this month of June. What do you think? Here's where I'm at right now mentally. Here's where I'm at, as a person. Here's how I feel about it. What do you think? And of course, Joey, he's always given me like really good like advice on that because I think we kind of grew up similar. We grew up in the same way, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
He just said, "Well, if you ever feel ready, if you think you're ready, and if you think you know how to do it, do it. Invite him over, but call me if anything were to happen. Just call me. I'll be there within a heartbeat." Right? I said, "Okay, cool, Joey. Appreciate it." And I reached out to my family, and they said, "Yeah, we'll set the date up. We'll set it up. Let's do it." Um, and so, I'm back in my head. I'm still kind of nervous. Like, okay, well, I haven't seen them since like what the second month of my program. What am I? It'll be okay, right? All these thoughts started just tagging. I'm like, what? It's gonna be okay. I got it. I can do it. Father's Day comes around. My mom and my brother, hey, what do we get? What do you want us to bring over, right? And I'm like, you know what? You guys pick up this, and this, and I'll go to the store and I'll get the plastic plates, plastic silverware, right? Excuse me. Well, that day came along, we did all that, and I went to Walmart and I told myself, like, man, my hair started to itch. I'm like, you know what? I need a drink, right? I need one. And I'm like, no, I can't think that way. And it's like you ever seen those movies or shows where you have like the right devil on the shoulder and the white demon on the other? That's
Mm-hmm.
what
Oh, I
it
know.
was. It was. I'm like, which one? I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. So I got this alcohol, right? And Joey was in the back of my head, man, and everything, every step I took, like within once, it was all there, right? I'm like, you know what? No, I'm gonna do this, right? Um, Cracked it open. I started drinking, and one wasn't enough. I needed like what, five more, six more. I needed that. I couldn't stop, and I'm like, okay, well, they're fixing to be here. I'm gonna go to Walmart and get me a handle of sangria wine, right? And got that stuff. Went home and just started to just drink, man. And unfortunately, when they came over, they knew what was wrong. They knew what I was doing, right? There was no secret. And I just was, the look in my mom's eyes, like, like I like kind of like, I feel bad for you, like, but kind of like I told you so, right? Like kind of like in a way, like I proved her, or like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what I'm trying to say? Like I
Yeah,
kind of told you so.
you proved her right of what she
Right.
thought, kind of. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't a
yeah,
supportive thing versus like and I know because I have the same Latino family members that are like, like I remember my mom saying something like we were talking about a job and she's like, "Well, I don't think the job you want is out there." And I said, "Well, if you think it's not, then it's definitely not." But
yeah.
it's that same kind of thing of like, yeah, I knew.
And yeah, like I told you so, right? I'm like, when I saw that, of course, when I saw that, I started to feel very emotional. My
Hmm.
thoughts are, I'm drinking, right? Um, and so,
Well,
it
you get
just got,
standoffish kind of
yeah, for
because
sure.
you feel judged.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And, by that time, I didn't want to call Joey. I didn't want to trigger Joey. I didn't want to call him and him hear me that way because you could obviously tell, man. You could tell. I think I was at the point to where like you could just look at me, that guy's up there. You know what I mean? That guy is right
Yeah.
there. You can tell. So I didn't want to call anyone and trigger them and be like a burden, right? So, the night went on and my mom's like, "What are you drinking in that cup?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Gatorade. Do you want some?" And she's like, "Well, no, I don't want that. Let me smell it." And I was like, I was drunk, I was gone. So like, yeah, here, sure, smell it. You know what I mean? And she's like, yeah. She's like, okay. She's like, well, what does that sign on that wall, effing mean? The sign on the wall was like my certificate where I graduated. And
Hmm.
so back then, when she said that, like, you know what? I got up and then I went to my room and I was like, you know what? I took like a shot of like, wine and started drinking more wine. And I worked up the courage to go in there. And, it wasn't just her, it was my brother as well. They were just arguing that we were all arguing kind of just in that flustered moment. But, I went to my room, started chugging. I'm like, you know what? They need to leave. I'm disappointed myself, looking at myself. Like, this is not the same Lewis that I knew in recovery. Like, this is not me those thoughts went. I remember those thoughts. I do. And I'm like, you know what? And I think that's what kind of just made me like upset. And so I went out of the room and I said, "You guys need to leave right now. I'm asking you to get out of my apartment and just leave, please. I don't want you here no more." And then saying that to a narcissistic mother, that's not the right way to go about saying that to someone like that, right? And so she gets up and she just, instead of leaving, gives me this whole spiel and just starts going off at me, um, off on me. And then, she's like screaming at me, right? Uh, and I can't help it, but I black out. It's just one of those things where I think looking back now, it was a mixture of the alcohol, but I think also I believe it was also a mixture of kind of the PTSD childhood trauma I went through. Just hearing her yell at me that way. No, I didn't put my hands on her at all, nothing like that. But I just it was like a switch, man. It turned off, and I don't remember anything after that. I don't, not one thing, not one word, nothing, right? Um, when I wake back up, you would say when that light comes back on, I am outside of my apartment door and I'm on the ground and I'm like, what the hell? I'm breathing real heavy. There's sweat everywhere. I go, what the heck? And I look down and there's blood like coming out of my left femur, my leg, right? And I'm like, oh, God, I looked at my color, I looked at my skin, man. And I'm like, whoa, this is not like I was blue. Like it was, yeah, I lost a lot of blood. And I was going in and out, in and out. And then, after the third time I went in and out, I woke up. There's a police officer right there. He's like, hey, you okay? And I remember crying to me, I'm going to die. I don't want to die. You know what I mean? And before I blacked out that moment in my head, the thought came to me like, wow, like my addiction really killed me. You know what I mean? That's what went, that's the last thing I remember before I blacked out again. Um, and so, it of course went to the hospital and I'm here today, which is a blessing and really is a big blessing, from God. But it's crazy, and I thought it was such a cliche thing to say at the time, but addiction really does kill. You know,
Well, how did you end up on the stretcher? You kind of skipped that part of what happened, if you're comfortable with saying.
I didn't know, so I didn't know if you wanted me to go in
Oh
depth.
yeah, 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 yeah. Everything,
Okay,
everything goes. It's up to you how open and vulnerable you're willing to be. This is the platform, but um, why did you
yeah.
have blood coming out of your leg?
When that thought crossed my mind, I'm my addiction, I'm gonna die. I was like, no, I'm gonna die. Don't let me die. Blacked out, and I think they said it took about five guys, five like full people, like really pick me up. And I wasn't mobile. I wasn't consciousness at that time. The next time I regained consciousness, whenever I guess I was in the hospital, like my shirt was off, my clothes were off, and they're like, this guy is he's losing it. They said, you know what blood type you are? Wake up, Mr. Altilano, wake up. And I'm out of it. Right? I'm out of it. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what is going on? Oh, sorry about that. Let me see.
No worries.
So, you know, I'm in the hospital bed and they said, we're going to have to put you under. Like, you're losing a lot of blood. Like, we're just going to go with what we have now. And I go, okay, okay. And they said, sign something. And there's a detective right here next to me. Do you know what happened? Like, I'm like, dude, I'm about to die. Like, what? No, I don't remember. Um, so they get me on there. And the next thing I wake up from the bed after surgeries, I guess. And the first person I see is my sister, Alyssa. And she's in Corpus, where we're at now, Corpus area.
Hmm.
One of two things. Okay, she was either visiting Houston that weekend or she just drove about 3.5 hours away, right? And so, she's looking at me like tears in her eyes, and I'm like, man, I'm so happy to see you. She's like, what? I asked her, what happened? I don't know what happened. Do you know anything that had happened? And by that time, like, I'm kind of more of like gaining, being, more sober and whatnot. I'm
Right.
getting clear minded. And she's like, Lewis, like you were like 4 times over the alcohol limit. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't know. I'm sorry. What happened? Can you please? The last thing I know, mom was yelling at me, and I was asking to leave, and that was it. And she's like, you were shot. Someone shot you. They had to break you apart from Anthony. Um, and they said, do you remember doing anything with Anthony? I said, no, I don't remember doing nothing. And of course, I have no bruises. Like my
Right.
face is, there's no bumps or anything on my hands. It was just my leg that was messed up. I said, I don't remember getting physical. I was like, I just really wanted them to leave. And she said, well, so you were shot and they don't know who it was. They don't know if it was Anthony, if it was his mom. We don't know who it was. And I go, okay. I said, okay, okay. And thank God, I look back now, thank God, my wife was on a business trip in Florida at Disney. And
Hmm.
so she was there during this time. It's just she had no idea I relapsed either. And so but once, she got the phone call started going around, she heard it, she just took the first plane and came over here immediately, you know. Um, but it was just one of those things where laying in the hospital bed and I can't feel my leg. I just feel very like just out of it, man. I mean, I thought I was gonna die. I ended up having like 3 to 4 seizures
Oh wow.
while, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and during those seizures, I thought I was going to die, literally die. Um, but you know, of course, time in the hospital, it's always like kind of like it was just more of like, okay, who did what type of thing. Like, am I going to be okay? What medication am I on? You know, not one person, not my mom, my brother, and I know I leave this out a lot, but my little sister Rebecca was there too.
Hmm.
But really do any big thing. You know what I mean? But she was there, so I haven't heard from my mom, Anthony, Rebecca. I mean, what? I mean, did they do it right? Is that what I'm asking? The detective came in, was asking these questions. Do you remember? And I was like, I last thing I remember is telling my mom to get out, telling everyone to leave my apartment. He's like, well, are you sure? Because you're like 4 times over the legal limit. I'm like, I mean, I promise you, man, I'm an alcoholic. I'm sure I remember saying that, right?
Right.
Like, okay, well, pretty much they really couldn't take my statement for word because of the fact that I was drinking, which is understandable, but I mean, I've said it like I've always said before. I remember telling them to leave, and I just remember blacking out whenever she started screaming, started yelling like that. And so, I spent about 2 weeks in the hospital, learning how to walk. They're teaching me these stretches, and it was hard, man. I couldn't get up and use the restroom. I couldn't. I mean, it was tough. Yeah, I could barely stand. I could barely lay on my side. Like it was just really rough. Um, and so, of course, it comes to the fact, okay, we're not going to go back to our apartment, right? We
Right.
can't. It's too sketched out. Like we're not going to go back there. What else is there that we can do? And I had talked to my in-laws and I had asked them. They said, look, we love you and we support you, but we just don't have the room for it right now. And I go, okay, well, I understand. I'm looking to my wife, like, what are we gonna do? Where I mean, I brought this, like, I felt so much shame during that time. Like, I felt like, and then of course I caused it upon myself, but it was just like, damn, like I did this to everyone. You know what I mean? Um, Thankfully, my sister, hey, you can stay with us until you were able, get better, start walking around more. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you, Alyssa. Like, really, thank you so much. And so after I leave the hospital, it's one of those like those moments where we're getting our stuff from the apartment, we're getting everything ready to go, and once we got all our stuff, we went to Corpus. Well, during that whole time, I'm not driving, right? But it's my wife doing all the work, it's my
Right.
sister, my brother. I can't pick up anything, right? So I'm just there watching, which made me feel so much worse too at the same time.
Yeah, you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like you can't contribute, and because of
Yeah.
me, this happened, and now I can't even help.
Yeah. And so, we get all our stuff and we moved to Corpus and we're with my sister. We're in the same, like to this day, like we're in the same bedroom. My, my, uh, my, my, my sister's daughter-in-law or stepdaughter, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
We're in, right. And so my wife works in that room. We sleep in that room. It's just our little area. And it's
Right.
like, to this day, it's like, well, damn, like it just serves as a reminder, my fault. Right. But, you know, whenever we get to Corpus and, I'm feeling like this way, which I deserved it. I deserved to feel that way. But I remember a former person of my supportive community in AA reached out to me and they had told me, and I'll never forget these words, Kathy said, she said, just because of the fact you relapse, that does not take away from the knowledge that you still have in recovery. Right. And at the time, like, I was like, what the fuck is she talking? Like, what is she talking about? Right. But when it really soaked with me, she's right. Just because the relapse is very normal in recovery. In fact, 80% of Americans, after they attend rehab, they relapse, and it's normal. It's a normal part of recovery. But she was right. And once that kind of soaked into my brain, I said, okay, the knowledge is still there. I still know my steps. I can still take gratitude. I can still
Hmm.
be of service to others in some way, right? I just didn't know what way that was, right? So, it started as typical, okay, what am I thankful for today? I wrote what I was thankful for. Okay, let me talk to my sponsor, Joey, give him a call. I would go to these online AA meetings because I couldn't walk, right? Um, and by the way, this is all happening, right? All this getting shot in the summer, all this is happening, and I'm still attending school, right? That's one thing I didn't want to let go of because I
Right.
was so close. I was attending school, but I'm not going to let go of this. Well, in my writing class, as I'm getting, going to physical therapy, retaking the steps, getting better again. My writing class, I've learned, okay, what's one way you can express yourself? And it was this whole shabam about um, asking a question to like a different classmate, and then you read their reply, and then you take that reply and you turn it into a creative story. You know what I mean? It's one of the
Yeah.
creative ways it works in writing. And so I guess one of the questions that I asked my classmates was, what was one time in your life that you felt happiest, right? And they wrote a paragraph, and then I took that paragraph, put it into one page on Word document, then I put it to the other, and I started coming up with these characters. I started coming up with these little characters, the feelings he listed. I put each of those feelings into each character, and it just it came up with this nice little short story. It was really good. I got like a 90 on it, but it's crazy because I made in my mind, I made a completely different world and story based off that little paragraph, right? And those feelings that were listed, anger and depression, were in those characters. Those are real feelings from this person. And so little did that person know he was sharing such deep emotion within his text that I was able to do that with. Isn't it? It's crazy how words work, right? You see
Yeah.
where I'm going?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and initially what I think of is you're taking a small slice of you and as we delve deeper into what you're doing now and how you want to impact people, it's taking that small slice and making something bigger, just like you said within the story, making your story bigger, um, about serving others as opposed to what led you here in the first place.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so yeah, you're right. I mean, when that happened, I'm like, okay, well, this guy can do that. I mean, why can't I? I'm gonna take it upon myself to write these questions, these prompts. I'm gonna test myself because I always want to learn something new about myself in recovery as I'm being sober. I want to learn. I love learning. Um, and so I would ask, these questions. I was honest with myself. What was one moment in my life I was happy? And it would have to be the day where I got married to my wife. And so I wrote that, and then I wrote another question, another question, another question. And before you know it, I had like a whole journal filled with these questions. I'm like, okay, well, how can I be of service to other people? Well, I'm sure there's someone out there, that can benefit from these questions and gain a sense of healing the way I did. It's simple, just yes or no, or give it a short sentence, anything. So I started posting again on TikTok, and um, I made one post, and some of these were writing prompts, like actual writing prompts. If you were to write a book about a lover finding, just an example, if you were to write a book about a person finding their first love, what would the last sentence be, right? And I don't know which one that blew up, but it was a post like that within that range. I posted, and it blew up. And then that before you knew it, I had 1,000 followers, 2,000, three, and then now four. And I'm like,
Awesome.
wow, I'm like, wow, what is this, man? Is it gonna? And it's still growing, which is kind of crazy. I'm still not expecting it to grow, but you know, um, within this time, I'm healing, and at the same time, I'm watching others heal through these questions as well. I'm like, that is powerful. That's some powerful stuff. And so it's just I'm learning all these new things about these people posting, and it's beautiful, man. Because truly, I know it's cliche, but everyone has a story to tell, and you never know what your story is going to do to someone else's life. You don't, you know. It's that's just, it's powerful what words can do. It really is.
Yeah, that's what I always say. What Be careful how you speak to yourself,
Right. You got to
because
be careful.
words have meanings. Um, but yeah, I can definitely attest to your questions are very thoughtful, and sometimes when I'm going across them, you know, I always want to answer or comment. Sometimes I just have to like it because I don't. They're so thought provoking that I need to go deeper to answer the question or the prompt that you post. And I'm like, sometimes they're just too good almost. I'm like, man, like, oh, I'm like, I like, because you get used to TikTok, you're like, scroll, scroll, maybe whatever. And this one's like, oh, and
Yeah.
I keep hearing the thing go over and over because it's looping. But I mean, but like you said, I think it's, those questions that you're creating, like you said, wanting to learn about yourself. And I think that anybody who chooses or chases a path of sobriety, for whatever reason it is, those questions that make you really think about, where you're learning about yourself. Why am I doing this? Even though I know it's not good for me, or it no longer feels good, or whatever, but I think it's super important. Your questions just almost force somebody to look deep inside to learn what it is that drives them and provides that motivation to, whether it's drink, use drugs, or abstain, even, because regardless what it is, your why, is important and drives you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just at first in the beginning, I'm like, okay, do I want to make these questions more geared to actual people in recovery?
Mm-hmm.
And then that big question that, I really had a hard time answering. Like, okay, what do I want to do with this page? It's obviously growing, right? What do I want to do? And so, I really just sat down for a day and I thought about it. And one of the thoughts that came to mind, well, in essence, isn't everyone really recovering from something,
Yeah.
right? Not just drugs, but aren't we
Trauma.
all right? Exactly. We're all recovering from something. And so once I felt that, in my heart, I'm like, you know what? Okay, it needs to be for everyone, not just a specific crowd, right? And so it just, started making the questions more, broad, more geared towards everyone, not just, alcoholics or, drug addicts and whatnot. And it got more traction. And it's, you know, it's, it's one of those things where, okay, it's getting big, right? But I don't want to ever I don't ever want to plagiarize just someone else's work. I don't want to
Right.
ever. So that's why you kind of see it's kind of not slowed down, but I'm not posting as much because it's like, okay, I look up this question, someone else already posted that. I don't want to copy that, right? Or how can I reward it? It's just, I really want to, I feel after these past months, I just feel like it's something that I can really, really, reach a lot of people with, and I really, really want to make it grow and help it grow to where it needs to be. I just want to do it as authentic as I can. You know what I mean? And I feel like,
Yeah.
authentic and being real, I mean, that's what got the page, getting so big in the first place is being real and authentic. And so it's just, one of the thoughts that just, roll in my head. So yeah, that's just,
Well,
that's it.
and I think, like, um it's a little bit similar, kind of like
Yeah.
in the podcasting arena, in that, I'm part of the Podcast Connection Network, and there's 4 podcasts, and we're all similar in a similar space, but a little bit different. And, you know, oh, hold on. Hold
Okay.
on. Okay. No worries. We had a little technical difficulties, but as is life, we
Yeah.
solved the problem and we're gonna get back to it. But what I was saying, like in the podcast arena, is, you know, we just have different ways of communicating with people. So, like you yourself, you're like, oh, I don't want to plagiarize. Definitely
Right.
understandable, but it's also too of, um, taking a question that's structured similarly and asking it your way. And it's kind of like podcasting's the same way, because,
Yes.
you're not the only alcoholic in the world. And, you know, and so it's about, you're definitely gonna, because there's like a big book of if questions. There's another, like a card game that Hunter got, that was like some questions like, what's a secret that you've never told anyone, and how do you think people would look at you? Um, so, but also what makes your what you do is how you do it, in that it's not a card game. You're posting props on TikTok, but what people also don't know is that you actually have all these prompts in some journals
Oh yeah.
that are
Oh yeah.
available through your site. Um, And, so while some people may play card games on a TikTok live and ask each other questions to learn,
Sure.
your modality, your method is for those introspective type people, and it's going to be a little bit different. And so, I definitely get it and respect it where you're coming from. But
Thank you.
just like with a podcast, it just increases the challenge of how we have to think, whether it's a topic
Yeah,
to interview someone or how to make it yours a little bit.
I see what you like your niche. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I see where you're going. Yeah, it's it's just that definitely played a role. But I figured there's always gonna like you said, everyone's always gonna have their own little way of putting a question out, right? I just
Mhm.
think that about it and the way you use it for. I mean, its purpose is a lot different than what someone else's purpose is initially
Right.
used for. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it's always been there too. So yeah,
And I think, like, well, and it could be partially because I know you um, through this avenue, but after people hear this, you know, they're gonna understand more about you. And I think, when they look at those questions, it's I don't know how to explain it, but I I just think it's like you said, it's one of those things that is good for everyone, not just alcoholics or drug addicts, that will you're asking that right question to look inside and really take a look at yourself, which I think is important. And um, if you can answer why on any sort of baseline, like why do I feel this way? What's making me feel this way?
right.
Then you're closer to a true solution.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
what I was thinking about when you were talking about the like the relapse part of it is, in a podcast I was my last one that I think it was yesterday, but it talking about sometimes in life the finish line moves.
It's true.
We start going down a path and kind of it ties into your 3 months. The program was 3 months, you completed it. And so sometimes, you see that finish line or you get a sense of completion. Maybe, did it give you any sort of false of I I completed this, now I got this, because like what I try to figure out is, when you went to go get the stuff and you're like, I need a drink. Um, you know, because I've done this too, is do you think to yourself like I've I've gone 90 days, I can have a couple and I'll be okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You you hit the nail right on it, man. Like, yeah, that's okay. So whenever I walk to the gas station, okay, so here's the thing, Richard. The thing about it is I already knew what I was gonna do that day, right?
I
I
know
woke
too when I've done it,
yeah, like I woke up that morning, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna drink today. And when that thought hit my mind in the morning, I battled it all day. And one of the things I failed, I didn't reach out to no one. I didn't because I thought I would be a trigger to someone else, right? So I didn't reach out to anyone that day, which I should have done. And I advise anyone who's listening to this, don't think you're going to bother the people in recovery. They want to help. They want to help you. I just didn't. I knew it, but I didn't feel it. Right. I already made up my mind when I woke up that morning, man. But I battled it throughout the day. And like you said, when I had those beers in my hand, walked back to my car, 90 days down the drain. That was down. That was in my head, and I was like, you know what? F
it's
it.
only 90
I'm already.
days.
Yeah, it's only 9 days. But, with these beers, I'll be fine, and that's it. No, I drank those beers, and I needed more. I drank those other beers, and I needed a whole gallon of wine. Like I needed more, and it was just, yeah, man. When I, it was like this Sonic drink, right? I got it, cracked it open. I looked at it, I'm like, drink it. You know what I mean? Just drink it. And once I took that first sip, man, it just tasted like a good Sunday morning. I just need to have more of it. And
It's a
yeah,
physical feeling. I think some people don't understand, but it starts with that thought, but then there's like a physical craving of like,
yeah,
I want to do this because, I don't know about you, but alcohol for me, like there's this rise, which is kind of good. And then you level off,
oh
and you're
yeah.
like, yes, your dopamine's high. And then all of a sudden
So
you just tank, you know,
yeah,
and then of course you're tanked for a couple of days because, what it does is it
it
equal and
just yeah,
opposite. It goes into the negative, and then you're spending a couple of days trying to get your dopamine, your brain back to a baseline. And, you know, it's hard. And
yeah,
unfortunately, the easiest way to get that baseline back up is to reach for whatever got you there in the first place.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you, man. In the past, now I haven't experienced this, maybe not that day on June in Father's Day, but in the past, where I would get so worked up, like I would start to feel anxious, very nervous, or
Mhm.
I just was thoughts were everywhere, right? They were absolutely everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, okay, you know what? I got a beer. I drank it. As soon as I drank it, like it all just flowed through my body. I felt so much better. It was amazing, right? Like, damn. But what that does is that signals to the brain, hey, you just got a reward for doing this. And that's where that addictive cycle kind of takes place. It kind of it sees it as a reward ratio. If I act this way and if I do this, this is that feel good high that will come. And so, I mean, I didn't see it then, but now looking back, I do. And with the knowledge that I have now, I saw it. That's the best way to describe it, honestly. Best way to
Now,
describe
now, do you think it was, you know, you said you woke up kind of knowing that's
it.
what you
Yeah,
were going to do that day. Now, do you think it was the PTSD anxiety manifesting that caused that from going like, I want to see my family, but I just don't know how this is going to shake out. And of course,
absolutely.
you already know that there's probably going to be these feelings of judgment or
Right,
whatever.
right.
Because I mean, Latino parents are notoriously for, telling you like you should lose weight. And then when you lose weight, they're like, you're too skinny. Like you look sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 So I'm glad you asked it because I'll clarify on it a little bit more. So the night before, I'm like, you know what? It's going to be a fresh start. My family's going to come over. It's going to be the start of something new, right? Well, when I woke up, of course, I'm like, oh man, Sunday I got work tomorrow. My family's coming over. Oh man, my family's coming over. Okay, well, this is the day, right? And that starts getting faster. Those thoughts, the dialogue gets faster in my head. Well, this is the day they're coming over. My mom's coming over, starts talking fast, right? My mom's coming over, my brother's coming over, sister's coming over. Okay, well, I haven't seen them since like what, almost 2 months ago now. Okay, just it started building up. You're right. That anxiety started to build up and build up over the course of the day. And when it got to the point where I had to go to Walmart to get stuff, stop at the gas station to get gas. Is what I told my wife. But yeah, I got a few beers and had to get more. And then it one of those things where once it's like a fish, man. When you go fishing, once you got the fish by the jaw, it's okay. Come here. You're not going anywhere. It's exactly like that. Exactly like that. So yeah, I'd say it started with the thoughts, the dialogue, and then just worked up from there. Worked, and at that point, I was already too trapped to think of the steps. I was too trapped to think about calling someone. I was just fixated on one thing. I think which is that reward ratio comes into play with the brain. I was fixated. How can these thoughts stop? Well, the brain rewired and go get a drink, right? Go get a drink. And it's just the way addiction works,
Well,
unfortunately.
there's also that thing of sometimes I think, um, we as humans, we don't give ourselves enough like grace in that, given your situation, you probably just as easily could have been like, hey, can we skip the get together today? Can we plan it for another day? I'm just not feeling it. But,
Right?
sometimes we feel like we can't back out because we're afraid we're going to disappoint others. But, the truth is, we're not. we're not filling our own cup, we're not taking care of ourselves when
Right.
we do that. And um I think you probably understand now, and I understand because of the space I'm in with the people in the podcast and everything, that it's okay not to be okay sometimes, and it's okay to say no. It's okay to put some boundaries for your own, you know, mental health and or well-being. Because like you said, hey, it was going to be the beginning of something new, and it was, because look at where you're at now. And I know you can't go back and undo any of that, but
It
you can learn to go, hey, next time I don't feel comfortable, I need to honor my own feelings of it,
right.
and whether it's reach out, cancel plans, or just say, hey, I'm not okay at the moment. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, or don't accept it, or don't know how to put that into action. um which is really essentially like standing up for yourself,
Absolutely.
self-love. But
Yeah.
I would think anybody who struggles with any sort of addiction, they're probably not high on the self-love anyway, because that's the whole reason, you're trying to escape or numb something.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 You hit it. You hit it right on the mark, man. That's very true. Very true. And it's I would say that back on the self love. You're right. It's I should have really stood up for myself back then, but I'm too much of a people pleaser. I mean, I guess I was back then.
I
It's
I've always been too, and you get rewarded when they're
right.
happy, and so you keep doing it.
Oh, what a good son, or you're such a great man. Like it's just deep down, I wanted to hear that from my mom. I never heard of that. Never, she's never told me that. And so maybe my other siblings, but never me. And so I guess that day, I just really wanted to prove her, wrong that, hey, counseling does work. I got the help. I'm in much better shape now. And I also want you to be proud of me for taking, for seeing me take responsibility of this. It's a big thing to take responsibility for, man. Not, it's very brave that people go into this and say, you know what, I have a problem. I need to address it. That's a big thing to do. I just wanted my mom to see that. Um, and unfortunately, she didn't. She saw what I guess what she's always seen. And it after a while it haunted me every night. It really did. I wasn't able to sleep. I had dreams about the incident. Um, it just it really haunted me for a long time. And it got to the point where this past month, of course I sat down with my wife and sat down with my sister, and I was like, look, guys, I haven't heard from mom. It's been a long time. I haven't heard from anyone that was there. Still, it was last month. Um, I think in order for me to really let go and to feel better about where I'm at now, like in all reality, like I owe them, whoever was there, I owe them an apology. I don't know what happened, right? I don't know what they did, what they said, but at the end of the day, in order for me to grow, I need to right my wrongs because they saw me that way. And it's not their fault that I can't blame it on them. It's my fault that happened. And I take full responsibility of it. And I said, and my wife was like, well, no, they said this, they said that. I said, I understand, but I need to apologize. I need to make amends. It's what I abide by, the 12 steps. I need to make amends whenever I'm wrong. And although you guys may not seem like they deserve the apology, I need to do it because it's going to make
For
me feel
you.
better to move forward from it, right? And so I reached out to them, and of course, I got, the same old, what you would get from, a typical mother, conservative mother. Um, oh, I'm very, your addiction is fake, right? She threw that in my face immediately. And I just replied back, it hurts my heart that you think that way, but I just want to let you know, again, I apologize for you having to see me that way. And I love you. And, that was it. And she's like, well, she changed the subject completely. My dad quit cold turkey, you know, and I just, didn't respond back, and I haven't heard from her since. But as soon as I sent those apology messages to my mother, my sister, my brother, I mean, it just felt okay. All this big weight, no more nightmares, right? No more, none of that. It just felt so good I felt so good about myself. Now, the only person I heard from was my mom. I haven't heard from my sister, Rebecca. I haven't heard from Anthony, my brother. And that's okay. That's okay. They have every right to be mad at me. They saw a side of me that was ugly. It wasn't good. But it's okay. I said what I need to say. They got the message. And whenever they're ready to reach out, they can, they can. And they know that too. They know it. But it's one of the things where if you take a step back and you look at it as a whole, it's that constant recovery. Hey, I almost died, right? I almost lost my life. I almost, you know, it was almost over for me. But the fact that I'm still here means, and it shows me and it proves to me, one, God is real, and two, that my God has a plan for me. You know what I mean? That He has to. Otherwise, I would have died that night, right? But it shows, okay, now that I'm here, I can still actively do recovery, and I can still move forward, whether if it's a few inches forward, a foot forward, I can move forward in some way. And so starting over again, that's okay. It's okay to start over. That's one of the things I've been telling myself lately. I'll be 9 months sober this month in March, and it's it's the longest I've been sober since. And all the steps have worked out for me. Taking gratitude, going on walks, and just this TikTok page is really helping me too, because I feel that I'm being of service to other people with my story, with the prompts. I'm helping other people out too. And so that helps me, deeply. It really does. And so, I think it's just my journey. And, it's my journey. And I am very happy that I went through it, honestly, because I wouldn't be who I am today without it. I got to have some sort of like appreciation for it. I do. And so it's, it's just one of the things that I think about daily. So yeah.
I think it's well, because kind of the uh it's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. Um and you know, why you come to TikTok and then why you stay. I came strictly to promote the podcast and treated it kind of like an Instagram, like you said in the beginning, like you did, where it's kind of like a post and ghost, forget about it. And maybe somebody likes it. But I think, how TikTok kind of weaved in the lives, like while you're scrolling, I was like,
Right.
oh, you can interact versus, Instagram's a little bit different. And, you know, I always say I joined for one reason, but I've stayed and actually been on TikTok more than any of the other apps I used before. And it's because of the connection, the fellowship, running into people like you, and there's some other people I've run into that I want to have on the show, and um, just incredible stories, incredible humans. And, it, I would say like TikTok kind of turned out to be more than I ever expected,
Oh yeah.
because, I listen to some podcasts and a lot of people trash TikTok. It's, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
like Twitter, it's like almost like you fit groups of people into these things and some are cesspools or whatever. And I always kind of thought of that way. I was so reluctant to go on TikTok, and I was like, well, if I'm starting a podcast, then I really need to get it out as much as possible. But I've kind of found that, you know, TikTok and the people that I've met through there have kind of become mainstays and staples, and kind of where I'm going a little bit more on a regular basis,
Oh
um,
wow.
to interact, to
Right.
connect. Um, and, you know, has it been the same for you? Is that why I know you use it kind of for the thing, but what's kind of kept you coming back and engaging?
One of the things that kept me coming back, of course, is I want to be of service to people, but it goes much deeper than that, right? Some of these stories that I hear, from people, they'll message me, "Hey, your TikTok page means so much for me. Keep doing what you're doing." I get those about maybe two, 3 times a day, and just hearing that from random people, it's like, okay, I'm obviously doing something right, but not just that, I am making an impact in someone's life. But that's the deeper meaning behind it all. I'm making an impact, and ultimately, that's what I want to do. I want to make an impact in someone's life, and I've heard stories from people, and these stories are really touching. And I don't want to tell anyone else's business,
No,
you know, but
it's their story to tell. I'm the same way.
yeah, it's just me personally, it doesn't make me feel so alone out there,
Right.
because at the end of the day, we're all human and we all connect on communication. We all connect through storytelling, and it's not comparing so much, but it's like, wow, you've been through that and you're still here, right?
Hmm.
Like that's beautiful. Look at it in a deep way. That's absolutely beautiful, and I mean, that's what kept me coming back. Meeting people like you, and
Hmm.
there's that I'm starting on, and we're growing and we want to make a difference. It's like that's awesome. You don't see that. You don't see much of that these days. And I think at the end of the day, that's what the world needs to see more of is kindness and support and the supportive community, of course. But just I mean, that's what's kept me coming back. I know I the next thing I want to do with this is, of course, turn it into like a nonprofit support group.
Hmm.
I'm going back to college as soon as I'm done with my bachelor's degree to get a master's degree in addiction counseling. And with that, I really just want to use it for our support group and just offer counseling services to people who need someone to listen to. And so of course it's going to get much bigger than what it is now, and but that takes time, and I know it's going to take time. But I think that if I keep doing what I'm doing now, keep connecting, keep hearing stories, keep telling stories, it by the time that comes, the community will be so big, it'll be good. It'll be beneficial for everyone. So it's just, you know, that's one of the reasons why I keep coming back. I got so many goals planned for it, and it's going to be truly amazing. It really is.
Um, so a lot of people don't know, but they will now, and they're going to learn more about you after they listen to this and go check out your page. But tell everybody kind of what you and your wife got going next. I saw a little post today about a
Okay.
camper.
Okay, that's kind of funny. So me and my wife are in bed, and of course, I cannot get out of bed. I gained like what 60 pounds. Man, I wasn't able to work out. I just went to physical therapy, but I'm laying in bed, and I have like this like tight shirt on. You can see my chubs everywhere, and I'm eating pizza. I'm like, "Will you love me forever, no matter what?" And she's on my stomach. She's like, "Of course, why wouldn't I?" I'm like, "Okay." It was one of those like wholesome moments, and then we were like that. The conversation transitioned into, "Okay, well, what the question, dude? What's one thing you want to do before we get old, right?" And we just started naming these little things, and then and sooner or later we came across the same thing. We want to travel in a camper across the United States. Why not? I'm like, wow. I said, I don't think that's possible. I can't walk right now. I can't, and my strength's not there. I don't think I can do it. He said, well, we can start saving, and we can do it. I'm like, you really think so? You really think we can? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, well, my credit's not good no more. I lost my car. Oh, my credit cards are all everything's crap. How are we going to get it? She said, well, we'll just save money to get one. So I'm like, okay, well, let's do it. If you think we can do it, we can do it. She's a teacher, by the way. So and this whole time we were surviving off her income, and but we're not really paying rent or nothing. So all that money went into saving for a camper, and we got it eventually. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, well, it's actually coming true. Why not? Let's do it. Life is too short. Um, I could have been gone this past year, and I'm not. It's life is too short. Let's go see the world. Let's go see before we settle down, have kids. Let's go see it all, me and you together. And so, we took that and we got our camper, and right now things are just moving in the right direction. And so we're gonna be traveling everywhere, man. It's gonna be pretty amazing. I can't wait.
And so
Yeah,
as you travel along, you're still going to be posting, coming up with new stuff, probably
more
getting
travel content.
getting inspiration from all the places you travel and probably people you
Absolutely,
meet.
absolutely, yeah. And I was hoping because I know I talked to a few people, but people really want to like interact and meet me whenever I go to
Hmm.
like North. I'm like, wow, really? Would you be down to meet me in person? Like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, if you're down, I'm down. So I think if that starts picking up more too, and if people are willing, like, comfortable to meet us,
Hmm.
I don't see, and see with that, we can hope, like, if there's like maybe 20 people I know in North Carolina, we can all hold like a support group together and just hang out, relax, and talk, really just get to meet and connect with one another. And so that's one of the things I really hope we get out of that too as we go along and as I make more travel content. But I kind of want to I don't want to like lose focus of what started my foundation of the page, which is writing. I also I want to keep that as like priority number one, but I'm also not, I'm not so like, looking the other way from change either. Maybe travel, maybe a mixture of just both. I think will do well. But yeah, I can't wait for it. I can't wait. I think maybe adding that more kind of gives like a little bit of twist, but maybe like in a way I can kind of connect writing and nature together.
Mhm.
Like there's so many I do, so many plans I want to do, but I just got to take it, one step at a time, one day at a time. So
Oh, and kind of like
yeah,
the TikTok thing, I think why we start things
right,
is one reason, but then the meaning they take on over time as we devote more of our time and emotional energy, it kind of
right.
takes on a different meaning. And I'm sure the travel is going to do the same thing for you. But, I know that I had met some people from, you said North Carolina, and I met people at a concert in
Really?
Dallas from North Carolina.
Oh,
And,
okay.
it was like, part of myself just being open, being me, being the truest version of myself. Um, I found that connecting with others, um, you know, it it was just kind of magical. If you
Yeah.
yourself are open and you put off, you vibrate at a frequency that's um truest to you, then you just pick up on other good people. And I met quite a few people that night, and it was awesome. And I think that's awesome for you that, there's actually people on here. And, you wouldn't be the first. I've come across other people on TikTok that have met each other, some that were different distances, some that were close. I met a guy who he had met someone on TikTok, and the lady and her daughter were moving somewhere and they needed help like packing up the U-Haul. And he drove over
Oh,
there and helped. And it was like, so
oh,
I think it's just amazing. Of course, like anything, you have trolls, but
yeah.
if you find the true people on there and they're truly, like you said, they're down to meet up in person, have a real conversation, and make that connection. And I think it's wonderful. I'm excited for you and your wife. I wish
We are.
I could be doing that myself, but I'm definitely rooting for you guys and excited for y'all.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, we're excited for it too, and it's like whenever because we leave Texas this month at the end of I want to say March 26th,
Hmm.
um, exiting out of Waco, and then we're gonna go towards Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, then North Carolina. So I mean, it's exciting because it's like we're like turning this page of like no more like just we're done with this chapter in our life, and it's a good thing, but it's like we learn from it, and we can just what we learn we can adapt it to this new chapter. It's exciting. We can't wait. We're itching for it. I'm itching for it. I mean, I took the camper out to the beach, man. I mean, I want to go already. I'm
Like
really
already
excited.
practicing, you got to
Like
get
literally,
practice setting it up, and thinking of all the different things, because I'm
yeah,
sure you're going to go some places that are not the same, have
right.
some interesting parking spots, I would guess.
Oh yeah, it's the thing about these campers is you gotta, of course, naturally, whenever you're turning, you just gotta make a wider turn, And I thought, and so for a while, I'm like, how am I gonna back this thing up? I can't. I haven't driven a trailer in so long since I was a teenager. How am I gonna back this up, right? Man, I pulled this thing to the beach, and within like 10 seconds, I'm just backing it up naturally. You know what I mean? So it's like I didn't know I can do that until I got out and started practicing again. And so gave me more confidence, and I'm just ready for it. I'm really excited for it. I can't wait. You know,
Okay, so we're gonna start closing it up, and I want to ask you a couple of questions. Um, and I know that there's probably it can be elaborate, it can be not elaborate. You can sum it up however you like, but um, let's say since the 2022 area when you started the program to where you are now, what's one thing, something that you've learned in this journey, um, that's really that kind of sticks with you, that's an underlying something you can always go back to and kind of ground yourself?
There's a lot, but one that sticks to me to this day is reminding myself that no matter what I go through, I mean, and in life, when you grow up, you see yourself grow in different seasons, different stages of your life, right? Um, and to me, I didn't really start appreciating that until this past year. And so now, what I know now, after the help that I went to go get, I really just remind myself daily, and I want people to understand this too. At the end of the day, you're just human. Really, like really let that sit. You're just human. What what more can you do? What 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 else can you do to, I mean, you're just human, man. You're gonna mess up. We're gonna have these setbacks. We're gonna fall, right? But what makes us most human is continuing to get back up and continue to strive and just be a better person in general. And just the days that you don't like yourself, the days when you just look in the mirror and oh my God, I'm sorry, my dogs are barking. The days mirror and you see, oh, I don't like to be gentle with yourself. We all we're all walking our own journey. We all are walking a different tune to our path. You never know what else someone else is going. I'm sorry. You never know what else someone else is going. So because of that, and you don't know that, always show kindness in little ways too. And so that little paragraph, that little phrase I just said, I mean, I always replay that in my head. I need to be more human. I need to know that I'm human. I need to accept that. I need to show that I'm human. I need to show kindness, because I don't know what that person's going through. I mean, maybe that person needed to smile. That's the best advice that I can leave to somebody or to say to someone. And that's just my personal, advice. So yeah, thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, I was thinking like you know, kind of something I've been mulling over, doing a couple lives and now the podcast is, maybe coining, I don't know if it's coining, but the phrase of, go out and be the person you would want to meet, you know,
Right. True.
um, which is like that kind, caring, compassionate. Um, if you were broke down on the side of the road, you would want somebody to possibly say, hey, you need a ride, you need help. Um, but being that person to other people, um, and I think that's kind of, like what you said, like just showing yourself grace,
Absolutely.
that you're only human. You're gonna you're gonna make mistakes, but
Yeah.
as long as you can not make any that are so egregious that you end up in prison or
Right.
jail and you can't correct it, then or potentially lose your life over it. Um,
Right.
and I think, yeah, we're sitting here having a conversation, but you know, to me, it's not lost on me because I worked in a level one trauma center for 6 years that getting shot in the leg, you're very lucky
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be here to get that second chance. And blood loss alone, all the arteries, or even, I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong in the process of having surgeries and or rehabbing or gaining full strength back, um, full mobility,
Right. Oh yeah, that was tough.
you
Yeah.
know. And so I think, to anybody out there listening who's struggling is, you know, it only takes a second and life can be changed forever. And, um, if 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 you don't slow down and kind of take an inventory of what's really important, um, you know, that end can happen and then it was, your life was wasted in essence, I think, for me. Um, because a little bit like you, I'm a purpose driven person. I'm a people pleaser. Maybe not so much anymore, but I love people. I want to help people. The
Absolutely.
whole reason kind of behind the podcast, just like your works, your journals, your questions is um, to just let people that know, hey, you're not alone. If
Right.
there's a conversation that I've had with someone or even myself, and it can help you relate or just help you figure out, like, hey, this is why I think this way, or give a resource, or hey, we're similar. And this works for you. Maybe it'll work for me. I think we're on the same path, just different areas. But as Hunter would say, everything's connected, and that's kind of how we ended up here. And I'm super stoked and proud to have you as my first guest. I think you have a very compelling story,
Thank you.
and I think that people can get a lot out of it, um, especially the part, like you said, hey, I'm going to write them letters of forgiveness regardless. It's not about them, it's about me. And it's about
Right.
setting myself free, um,
Absolutely.
so
Get
I
that
can
change.
move on. And I
Absolutely.
think um, to me, that's just, it shows your maturity, your growth. And I sure as hell wish I could have learned this at 27 instead of 47. It's taken me a little bit longer. Um, the last time I had any drinks, I had two margaritas on my birthday in June, which is probably
Oh
the
wow.
day after Father's Day.
Oh wow.
So we're probably about the same
That's
amount of sobriety time.
and your 8 months was on the 22nd, right? I think that's what
Yeah,
you told me.
yeah,
Awesome. Job. That's amazing, dude.
yeah.
Isn't
I
that
looked I looked at it today and it was like, I forget, it was 8 months and 8 days or something like that. So
amazing?
yeah,
Proud of you, man.
and it's thank you. But it's one of those things, that um I I don't know. I tell people all the time, like, this is my journey, you have your journey. Um our journeys, we know that alcohol's not good for us. It's
Right.
just not.
Yeah.
Some people are okay. My wife can have a drink and she's fine. She falls asleep. And, you know, kind of like you, I'm not going to push my way of life on anyone. I'm just here to help, be a
Or
conduit, or give you a resource, or even just listen if you're having a tough time. Because I know there's people out there just like me that it's not for. Um, we just can't handle it.
yeah.
You know, I break out. I'm allergic. I break out in handcuffs. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I've never been arrested, but that's kind of the joke, is I'm allergic to alcohol. Um,
That's yeah.
it's
No,
just
man.
not good for me.
Yeah. No. Same here. Same here. And once we get deeper into like, oh, at least for me, when I get deeper into my sobriety, I feel like it's going to get so much better. I feel like I'll mature in ways that I haven't before. I feel like my mind will open up more. And I think it's going to be something beautiful. I really do. I can't wait for it, man. And like, congrats to you too. That's a big deal. 8 months is it's hard to
Well,
do.
when I was getting my master's, I actually had made it 2 years, and
Oh
then
wow.
one 4th of July, and that was when I had gotten my master's and everything, and then 1/4 of July, it was while I was in grad school.
Oh wow.
You got the
Yeah, hear
uncles and
that.
family members who are like, "Come on, just have a drink," and then the next thing you know, it's like, you know, 2 years is gone, and now you drink, and then you go through periods that are like you don't drink, maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but then you always kind of go back to it. And I don't know, I
Same.
just, after this time, I don't know, like I just kind of feel like I'm done in a way, like, I only had two margaritas on my birthday, but if they're not going to do anything positive for you, and you still kind of get that negative thing, then what's the point of even doing it?
Yeah.
So I
Abs-
just, like, forget it. I'm swearing it off,
Yeah.
leaving it behind. And but more important to me is is the generational thing. Is I have a 10-year-old daughter.
Right.
Um, I don't want her. I don't want to normalize it for her, and I don't want her going down the same path that I have or any other family members have. And I would say that's one of the biggest motivations, other than, it is for me. I know I'm the best version of myself without it.
That's
And
good.
so I just kind of, you know, I stick to that. And um, that's what I would encourage other people to do is like whatever works for you and allows you to be the best version of you, that's what you need to be doing. And if I can help you, I will. And, you know, I feel like your journey's a little bit similar in that you're offering these resources and these prompts, and people can reach out to you. And, um, you know, but I think it's great what you're doing. Um, I'm
I want to make,
excited to see where you go.
yeah, I want to make a difference. And, I know it'll happen slowly but surely, but that's what I want to do with my second chance, man. Ultimately, I really do. And it's like, why not? I feel like my story could really, you said it can help a lot of people. It really can, and your story can too. I just think,
I hope.
yeah, I
Well,
just think that
maybe, for me, I go, hey, maybe it's the story, maybe it's the platform, maybe I'm just the person who has people like you on, and some other people I want to interview who also have um, compelling and impactful and very human, emotional, vulnerable stories that just sometimes don't get heard. And, you know, I always say that I don't know what I'm here for except for more. I know I want to help people. Um, whatever, however, God, the universe wants to use me is up to him, is kind of the way I look at it. I get myself too much trouble. So I just need to go hands off and, kind of leave it to, I know what drives me. I know my why. I know my caring for people. Um, and working in healthcare, I just feel like this platform, this medium, and also being able to interview people like yourself, it just has the potential to help more people than me sitting in one location every day.
absolutely,
And I kind of,
absolutely.
I hope to get the same thing. I don't know where this is going, why you start it, why you do it, and what it ends up becoming, can be some different things. Um, but kind of like you, the consistent messages.
Yeah.
I know I'm here for a reason and I want to help people. And hopefully people get something out of what I'm doing. Now, where can people order your journals?
Where? I'm sorry, I think
Where
you're.
can
So,
where can people get your journals from?
oh yeah. So if you guys are still listening, which is awesome, thank you so much. You can go to our TikTok at Soulful Recovery Pen. There you can click the link in my bio. That link will take you to our milkshake profile, which is totally safe. And you'll see three options: blank journal, recovery journal, and writing prompt journal. Click one of those if you want to buy them. They'll direct you to Amazon. So yeah.
Okay, so on Amazon, let me think. Is there anything else? Oh, you also have a Facebook group, right?
I do. It's very small, but it's still growing. But all that information can be found in the link in the bio.
Okay.
If you, it'll say community group. That community group will direct you to our Facebook group. You can just follow that as well. If you guys are also interested in Discord, the Discord link is on there as well too. So, got all three of those platforms trying to grow them, but slowly at a time.
It's a marathon.
Yeah, it's a marathon. It's a
It's a
marathon.
grind, it's kind of like sobriety. If you want to do it lifelong, you got to take it day by day and just put in the steps and the work each day. And you look up one day and maybe you got 8 months, and hopefully the next time we look up it's a year, and then 2 years.
Man, yeah, cannot wait. Cannot wait. Richard, thank you so much for
Well, you're
having.
welcome.
It really does mean a lot. I'm glad we're able to connect with each other, and I look forward to working with you, man. Down the road too. Honestly. So really, thank you. And I'll be sure to share this when I go live on March 11th, which is kind of, oh man, that upset me a lot. I don't. So I'll go and explain real quick. Um, okay, so my niece is a huge Taylor Swift fan, right?
Hmm.
Dancing, right? We're all trying to save her money for a ticket, and I went live one time just with her. I was just testing the waters, and it worked out really well. People really enjoyed it. Someone messaged me on TikTok, and she shared her story. It's very impactful. I'll give you her. I'll send her. I'll send you her way. She has a really good story. But she had told me that watching my niece dance like that really touched her that day. It reminded her of her daughter, right? And she shared her story. I was like, wow, like this is beautiful. Like the way this platform can just like do that to someone that just impact them that way. Like, you know what? I'm gonna try it again. Well, I tried it again, and next thing I know, I'm blocked from going live because someone reported it, I think, which is I don't understand why. I mean, her dad was there. We're all adults. We were there. We weren't doing nothing crazy. You know what I mean? It was ridiculous. But yeah, whenever I go live again, I'll be sure to, share who are on there to your, podcast and whatnot. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's wild. There's no rhyme or reason sometimes, I think, for the things that
like,
TikTok does or the banning and stuff.
come
Um,
on, man.
I think it kind of sucks. There's worse stuff on there. Like today I scrolled across something and there was some man. Just I mean, you might as well have been in like Victoria's Secret runway model, type of thing. But it's like really like, they'll let somebody bounce their jugs on
Like
camera and ask for this or that, and that's okay. But, maybe somebody having a real conversation just because there could be maybe keywords, triggering words, or somebody, how about a triggering word? Somebody in the chat gets butt hurt and they report you. And so, I, it, but like everything else in the world, um, you know, you got to play the game. And sometimes the people who stand to make the most impact get censored the most,
oh yeah,
you
it's
know,
true.
and, but you'll be back. And, this episode is set to come out hopefully on the 7th, next
Okay,
Thursday.
all right,
Um,
cool.
so
Thanks.
you can create a post for it. I'll create a post for it. But yeah,
Sure.
I'm definitely looking forward to this, and hopefully I can get this. This is the first time using this modality, and so we should have video, and hopefully it'll be a YouTube video. In addition to, it'll be on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple.
Okay, cool, cool. I cannot wait till it comes out, man. Like I said, I'll share with the people that join my live, and it's gonna be awesome, man. I feel like we'll get a lot of traction there. Cannot
Yeah,
wait.
well, to me, it's yeah, it'd be nice if it gets traction, but really, the why is to highlight the people and the stories. And um, if anything, it gives an opportunity for people who follow you and or me, to get to know us a little better, get to know us about us a little better, and strengthen that connection that's already there. If it drives more traffic, great, but the why, like
Right.
anything else, is like a couple of messages of hearing, hey, something you said really spoke to me. That it's payment enough for me, you know?
Very true. It does its service for you in return, honestly, and it will. So that's amazing, man. You're doing a good thing too. You don't know who will come in listening one day and will need to hear it. You never
Right.
know. Never
It's
know.
kind of like
So
your page. You don't know who's gonna come across it. And
need to
like I
hear it.
said, your questions, yeah, and your questions really make you think. And like I said, I mean, but I'm a dig deep type of person, and
Same.
your questions are super impactful and really make you think. And I think anyone who participates in it, even if you can't answer the question in the comments or you don't feel comfortable or it makes you think about it, you know, don't worry about that as much as answer the question for yourself in a journal because you'll really get something out of the process of looking inside yourself. Um, and like the process of anything, it's about the process. We're all headed to the same destination, unfortunately. So it's really about the ride.
Yeah, it's a beautiful ride. Why not make it beautiful? You know,
Yeah.
and why not? You know, can't wait, man. It's going to be. I have full confidence. Moving forward in life, or my life, and I hope in your life as well. It's going to be beautiful. Cannot wait. Can't wait, man.
Well, if you come near East Texas, I'm not too far from Waco and or Tyler.
Okay. Where are you
Um,
at again in East?
Tyler.
At Tyler. Oh, that's up. Okay. Yeah, that's
It's
going towards
east.
Louisiana.
Yeah. We're
Oh,
we're we're off of I-20 directly in between Dallas and Shreveport.
okay.
But
Nice.
also Waco, it depends like if you go like 31, there's like through Fairfield kind of areas, Corsicana. Um, those
And
places kind of run through here. So
yeah,
if you come through, hit me up, let me know.
yeah,
I Uber. Um, I'd be, I'd be willing to meet you somewhere on your adventures, either on the way out or even on the way back. But I'm
a pleasure.
definitely open. And on that note, I'm gonna stop recording for one
Okay.
second, and then we'll finish up.